I'm really honored you finally accepted this meeting, Mrs. Munro. You know, the French people love your writings, and you've got over there plenty of fans waiting for this interview. It's been such a long time.
I'm an old woman now, you know, but my publisher insisted in accepting this meeting, and I wouldn't disappoint her.
I'll ask few questions. We are not having an examination. We're both too old for that, don't you think? I won't ask you anything, neither about your childhood, your weddings or children, nor about the time you spent working in the bookstore. All your readers already know about the glorious moments you had, and unfortunately, they know a lot about the terrible pains you suffered in the past.
Thank you for that. But if you don't ask questions, I shall do it for you. Shall I? Let me just ask you something. Why all this? All those equipments, frameworks, and muskrat picture?
Oh, I wanted you to remind you of The Office. This novel scared me when I once read it. I don't know if that was what you meant, scaring your readers. Well, I hope you're not scared now.
Of course not. I just want to move people. Even if I once was much inspired by Edgar Poe, fantastic mystery and imagination short stories.
In fact, as a writer, you love words, don't you? We'll just talk about words then. I chose some of them, and it's up to you to pick them up out of this basket.
Jolly good. You know I don't believe in coincidence. I suppose you did choose them on purpose. Let's start them. Oh, I'll just have a cup of tea first. With the years passing, it's just as if my body was getting drier and drier. Should I pick one?
Oh yes, please do.
Fairy tale. It reminds me of The Little Mermaid by Anderson. I was very young by that time. Oh, she deserved the prince more than death, don't you think? She had done awful things to win his love. Oh, it was such an horrible ending. So I decided to make up the story with a happy ending. And I rewrote it. That was definitely for me an early start of writing stories. But later on, I went into tragic ends and rather enjoyed it. Wuthering Heights was my favorite book. What I loved much was the way the landscape was part of the story. By that time, I knew that was the kind of books I wanted to write. And that is the reason why Canada is much present in my stories. But the Canadian landscape is such a beauty. It's like a character in itself, and it molds people. Oh, let's have another word. Short stories. It's incredible how people despise short stories. It was such a surprise the Norwegian authorities chose me for the novel in 2013. The fact is, I've been for a long time desperately annoyed I couldn't write a novel. I kept trying and trying and it never worked. It certainly was my destiny, and I'm glad with that now. up to me, it has been indeed the best way to express all I wanted to say about my village, about family relationships, and to draw specific atmospheres. And it was so convenient for me, as I was at that time dealing with the housework, taking care of the children of my daughters. Short stories were the solution. I didn't have much time. I was then much inspired by Edgar Allan Poe. As a matter of fact, one of my characters hates black cats, as an echo to Poe's terrible short story. And that was it. Oh, shall I pick out another word?
Oh yes, certainly.
Silence. What a strange word. Why did you choose that one? Let me think. My characters are often searching their identity. They happen to go back to the place they once lived, meeting again their parents, brothers and sisters, their relatives. All families or couples have deep secrets, things that go unsaid, misunderstandings. Everyone has its personal wounds and bruises, and sometimes communication's difficult. You almost get bribes of communication or ghost voices. But you know, what is unsaid is meaning. The readers know that. Silence is important, like small holes between the words, gaps, blanks, spaces. The silence can be heavy, heavy memories that should never be told. But it can also be light, light thoughts of love, for example, that drives you away out of your own life. But when writing, you have to make a very good choice of the words you're gonna use. Writing is like carving. You've got to be so clear. What you are saying, what you are writing should be so concise and consistent. To draw a realistic painting, paintings of the places, the feelings, the situation, the plot, even if not much happens in my short stories.
Ordinary lives.
Oh yes, the critics often said I was writing about ordinary people, and that I was a feminist writer. People love putting you into a catalogue, like I used to do in my bookstore, classifying the books by subject on the numerous shelves. Yes, that's right, I really was a feminist. But I didn't have the faintest idea about what a feminist was. I married twice, I got children. My husband always did their best so that I could keep on writing. And, by the way, doing the housework was not a problem at all for me. I deeply think ordinary people are in fact extraordinary. The human mind and soul are so complex. You can never be exhaustive. People go through such difficulties to find their way out of their condition, to understand who they are, to make the right choices. And life sometimes doesn't help much. Destiny sends you great misfortunes. What an extraordinary proof of
Resilience, you mean?
oh yes, indeed. Every day I'll feel so surprised people can go on walking despite the difficulties. They manage and accept their shares of ups and downs. They are not accepting them as defeat, they take advantage of what could be considered as a disaster, and and surf on it to enjoy life. That is in fact what I did personally. I knew what was the most important point for me, that is to say writing, and I scrapped on it despite the forthcoming thunders and storms.
But you no longer write.
Oh, there's time for everything. The vision changes. Aspirations too. I'm happy with my life. I did what I deeply wanted to. Oh, would you mind pouring some more tea for me?
Have a nice day, Mrs. Monroe, and thank you so much.